Dubois-Akeen advises this next group. They've been working with the New York City Urban Resource Recovery Working Group. Welcome up, Spencer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Spencer Keats, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Capstone 7, Wooden Buildings. Our team is made up of a talented group of individuals who each contributed their unique strengths to our data and research, and our advisor, Professor Akeem, has guided us to bring our best to this project. Our client is Town+Gown and the Urban Resource Recovery Working Group, a research program of the New York City Department of Design and Construction, as well as members of the Department of Sanitation. Town+Gown partners with city agencies and academia to produce applied, action-oriented research to improve outcomes in the built environment. 150 million. There is 150 million cubic feet of old-growth wood hidden inside of our buildings. We think. What do I mean by that? There is an invisible forest in our city. Over 150 years ago, as the population grew and the city began to expand, centuries-old forests were cut down and used to build the structural components required in buildings. Most people think that New York is made of concrete and skyscrapers, but over 30% of buildings are less than 7 stories and likely made from these trees. This wood is valuable and at risk of disappearing forever. 2,000 buildings are demolished annually, and the 5 million tons of debris make up half of New York City's waste stream. Most of it is getting sent to landfill, and the old-growth wood is actively being crushed on the way there. The infrastructure needed to sort, store, and reprocess high-valuable material like old-growth wood simply doesn't exist at scale. There is an opportunity to save this wood and divert it from landfill to a second life localized here in New York City. To do that, the client needs to know where and how much there is. For the past 14 weeks, we have been developing a proof of concept methodology on how to use publicly available data to map the location and quantity of old growth wood in buildings. We started by parsing through historical research and data to create an initial funnel of likelihood and a boundary for which buildings we should focus on. This allowed us to narrow down the 1 million buildings in New York to a short list of 350,000 candidates. When we last presented during the midterm, we had begun to test our initial findings by overlaying our process over a map of Brooklyn. From there, we continued to refine our estimates. Pluto is a data set that aggregates New York City building stock using standardized attributes, such as age and square footage. Using Excel and Python, we were able to isolate archetypes or building typologies in our funnel that would be the most likely to contain old growth wood, with residential buildings making up the majority of the stock. From there, we decided we had to calculate how much wood would be in each building. To do that, we created what is called a wood intensity factor. This is a rough percentage of how much structural wood is in a building compared to its square footage and a key system boundary of components, such as joists, beams, and columns, which make up the frames of these buildings. We created a unique wood intensity factor for each typology in our system and broke it down even further by era to improve the accuracy of our analysis. Now, we have a map of the entire city, and we are able to identify down to the building which is likely to have old growth wood and how much is in it. We can also identify neighborhoods of hotspots for potential material recovery. What this looks like is we can tell you that this brownstone that is 2,700 square feet in Park Slope and was built in 1889 likely contains 840 cubic feet of old growth wood. By applying our intensity factors across our clean data set, we were able to achieve our estimate, 150 million cubic feet. To put this number into some context, it would require a forest the size of 3 Manhattans to produce the same amount of virgin material. A forest of this size stores 3.7 million tons of carbon, which is equivalent to how much a coal-fired power plant emits during an entire year. We weren't quite done yet, though. Throughout our process, we made several assumptions during our estimates, including typologies, system components, and overall eligibility criteria. We tested these assumptions using a sensitivity analysis. Optimistic scenarios increase the amount of components in our boundary, while more conservative estimates apply a stricter cutoff date aligned with a decline in old-growth timber usage. This results in a range from roughly 100 to 170 million cubic feet. This methodology was the focus of our project, but during our research, another key element emerged. To make recovery an actionable and effective solution, a building deconstruction ecosystem is necessary in New York City. To identify what would make this possible, we looked into 3 enabling factors: public policy, industry engagement, and economic impact. We are at an inflection point in New York climate policy. Sustainability is becoming an increasingly important topic as the state and city seek to reduce their carbon emissions. Clean construction presents an opportunity to reduce waste and cut back on its carbon footprint. Today, demolition operates as a linear waste stream. Materials are harvested, processed, used, and then sent to landfill, with any underlying value ultimately lost. Deconstruction offers a fundamentally different pathway. By disassembling buildings, materials can be recycled and reintroduced into the marketplace. This process creates a circular economy where the usage of resource is slowed and looped back into a second life. There are also additional benefits to deconstruction for the social side. Reduced noise, debris, and uncontrolled particles results in a safer, cleaner, and less disruptive experience for communities. Our research has shown that up to 80% of old-growth wood can be reclaimed and sees a wide use of applications such as structural framing, flooring, to furniture, and higher-value design products. There is a precedent for cities attempting to create formal deconstruction ecosystems to varying degrees of success. This is possible in New York, and there are several efforts that are currently underway. At the state and local level, bills would formalize the ability to use reclaimed wood in structural purposes, and guidelines at the New York EDC would provide circular economy principles into capital projects. There are also people in the private sector looking to scale this ecosystem as well. We spoke with several companies actively involved in deconstruction here in New York. For them, profitability is key. In their words, reclaimed wood is up against a lot of uncertain variables when compared to new material. To identify the opportunities and challenges with reclaimed wood, we conducted a cost-benefit analysis. The 3 main limiting factors are transportation and storage, finding end uses for the wood, and the amount of time that it's stored for. There are also additional costs with processing it. It can't all be reused structurally, and the presence of nails and chemicals require additional labor before wood can be reused. However, when accounting for disposal fees and the value of the reclaimed material, particularly for old-growth wood, the economics begin to even out. Deconstruction can effectively reach cost parity with demolition, especially as the infrastructure and markets scale. To understand the full impact of our project, we modeled a scaled scenario across New York City. At 2,000 buildings demolished each year, by converting just 50% to deconstruction, the city could recover 50,000 tons of material each year, which results in thousands of jobs and millions in economic impact. Deconstruction isn't just a waste strategy. It's an economic driver that can reshape the built environment here in New York. For this to be effective, the data, the public policy, and industry need to come together to see the success. To that end, we have 3 recommendations to Town+Gown on how to proceed following our project. First is to validate our methodology with higher quality data and analysis. Pluto, zoning, and housing data are valuable starting points, but there are limitations to what this data can do, and the team made several assumptions while developing our estimates. Cross-referencing how much wood is in the building to an estimate on our list can improve the accuracy of our analysis, especially as it is applied to other kinds of materials. This can be a check during demolition or a full-scale pilot program. Second is to evaluate the economics behind transportation, storage, and secondary markets. We know there is demand for this wood, but private companies are unlikely to participate if they are unable to develop profitable business plans. Coordinating with local governments, industrial business zones, material recovery centers, and private companies is necessary to the success of this program. Finally, Workforce development and training is key to deconstruction as a process. There is an assumption that deconstruction is more expensive than demolition, but our research has shown that material separation for wood already happens in current practices. Educating the community on the benefits of deconstruction and that, if done correctly, it can be cost competitive, can generate the necessary interest and support. To close, we are thrilled to present our research to you all tonight. This was an exciting project to show us the potential of material recovery in New York, and we hope that our efforts will pave the way for a new circular economy. There is an invisible forest the size of 3 Manhattans in our buildings. All that is needed is a city and a system capable of reclaiming it. Thank you.
Hi. Great presentation. I'm just curious, what's the incentive for someone who owns like a lower than 7-story building to allow for like a deconstruction when maybe there's people renting in that building, or they have like a unit they sell out for shops at the bottom? Like why would someone go ahead and willingly lose their property for this?
So it's a great question, and this is mostly there to serve as an alternative to demolition. So if a building were to be completely torn down, as opposed to renovations or other kinds of small changes, most of that material ends up in landfill. This project was to examine the capabilities of, if we are going to start considering buildings as material banks, this is a type of material that we know has value in the city, and is there the potential to reclaim it rather than simply send it to landfill?
Hi, thank you, great presentation. I have a question. So about time, did you measure or estimate how much difference between demolition or deconstruction is in terms of time? Because sometimes, usually construction is very fast activity. So did you check that? Thank you.
We did. I think the metric that we heard more than time was cost and labor, particularly for the number of people that were needed at the site to do deconstruction rather than demolition. We heard a variety of different estimates throughout our project that we are analyzing the relevance between for our cost-benefit analysis. We heard as much as 6 and as minimum as 1. So that's the main metric for the comparison.
Thanks for the great presentation. This is maybe more of a comment than a question, but I have a friend who works in Boulder, and the city in Boulder, and they, maybe you're nodding your head, so I think maybe you know what I'm going to say, but I know they have a policy that, I don't know exactly how to say it, but basically any construction has to be reused. And I mean, obviously Boulder is quite different than New York City, and it works there. And one observation that this individual had was that it actually created a new business model for a lot of different businesses. And I'm assuming that you saw that and considered that in your recommendations.
Absolutely. And that's a large reason why we did a lot of this additional analysis in conjunction with our methodology. There are several cities where some type of system exists, either in a more formal setting or an attempt at an ordinance or system, to varying degrees of success. And so if this were to work with New York, a lot of different elements need to come together. It's possible. And that's a large reason why we're really excited about this project. And I think that gave a lot of color to the additional research the team did.